of the Guardian has been unbroken since its inception. The Council of Tirisfal were both powerful and wise in the rules they established, rules that have kept them safe. But the current Guardian is going to face a challenge unlike any other. Every decision made here will alter the course of history irrevocably. Don't forget to like and subscribe and come. Take a seat by the fire as we thumb through the arcane tomes. Aegwynn was a human mage that was born in the beautiful city of Lordaeron. Although she spent her entire youth in the apprenticeship of a Guardian of Tirisfal. Through her aptitude and a lot of hard work, she herself would be designated as Guardian, the first and only female in the esteemed line. While tested more than most, she had barely begun to face the challenges that lay before her. The politics of the 7 human kingdoms would come and go, but they relied on the Guardian much over the years, calling upon its great power as their only form of defense from the relentless demonic forces. By the time Aegwynn had become Guardian, she was already fatigued by the old men on the council. She believed them to be far too rigid and nearsighted. She wished they searched for a decisive victory in this war against chaos, instead of always reacting to threats. She often chose to rush in head first without thinking, born from a need to prove herself to these same men she admonished. Aegwynn over time became more and more accustomed to her newfound power, rising to heights that she never thought possible. Eventually, she became aware of some very powerful demons that have been stalking the icy wastes of the continent of Northrend. It was rumoured these demons were part of a warband hell-bent on hunting dragons. She would set off to the roof of the world to pursue them. She tracked them eventually to one of the mountain peaks, where she found that they were hunting one of the elusive dragonflights that had long since shied away from the mortal world. The demons were draining and feasting upon their magical essence, and while dragons were powerful in their own right, they found themselves evenly matched against the forces of the Legion. Aegwynn would join forces with these noble dragons, and with her aid they banished every demon back from whence it came. However, upon the final rescind cast upon the demons, a terrible and deeply troubling storm erupted to the north. From this storm a terrible and dark visage emerged. It beckoned toward Aegwynn. Doom had come. It was the fallen god himself, Sargeras. As he crackled and burned with hellfire, he warned the young Guardian that soon the lineage would be broken, that this world, like all others, would bow before the might of the Legion. The onslaught would return to consume her and all those she loved in cleansing flames. Aegwynn foolishly believed herself to be a match for the Titan, but although she battered his body with her most devastating spells, her weapon, named Alaneth, refused to heed to her will. For her weapon was possessed by a sentient entity that chose not to help her in this fight, for reasons still yet unknown. During this encounter, she cast it aside in favour of a relic passed on from Guardian to Guardian, Aetiesh, the Great Staff. Sargeras' counterattack was equally devastating, and the two battled for some time. But the dragons she saved came to her aid when she needed it most. It was together they defeated this dark avatar. Aegwynn feared that his spirit could not be destroyed, so they took the ruined shell and hid it. When the world was sundered, and many of the ancient structures were cast to the depths of the sea, there existed some few that survived down there beneath the frigid depths. Aegwynn had knowledge of an old temple of Elune. It was here that she bound the fallen avatar's shell. She had made this the tomb of Sargeras himself. This feat had changed her though. She had done the impossible. She had succeeded where the council did not. By her own admission much later, she had grown far too emboldened, cocky even. She would decide the future of the guardianship, not the council, she thought. For all her bluster, she did not know what she had done. That in destroying his form, she had allowed a portion of his spirit to possess her. He hid within the darkest recesses of her mind. This was his plan to begin with, exploiting Aegwynn's brash temperament, and he would remain there, slowly twisting her thoughts toward darkness. Over the next years, she would become ever more distant with the council. This was sparked by them using their power to influence the Seven Kingdoms, exerting pressure for personal gain. But a lot of this was her own fears being amplified from within. This is when she took a dangerous step, deciding not to pass the power of the guardianship, and while the council allowed it for the time being, they strongly disagreed with the decision. The relationship could not have gotten more strained. She withdrew from them almost completely, and over the long years, as each older generation passed, the younger would move into positions of power. These newcomers would seek to reclaim control over the Guardian's power. To this end, they began to hunt Aegwynn, to force her hand. She built for herself in secret an abode, nestled to the east of Stormwind City on a confluence of ley lines. This tower would serve as a siphon for her to draw upon the arcane energies, should she ever require it. It would be named Karazhan. For some time she evaded her pursuers as she gathered a hoard of arcane knowledge within its walls. But the Tirisfal drew ever closer, until eventually they found her hideaway. Knowing that much of the information stored within was too dangerous to be unleashed, she was forced to seal away Karazhan. She searched for much time for a new hideaway, eventually settling in the now ruined city of Suramar, where she would remain in solitude. Over time, in her occasional excursions, she would encounter members of the Tirisfal still attempting to capture her. They brandished ever more dangerous artifacts in their struggle to subdue her, some notably being Evenchill and Apocalypse. Meanwhile, far to the south in a land that had been lost to the world, is the continent of Pandaria. Shrouded in mist by the sacrifice of their ancient emperor, they had long since been protected and secluded from the rest of Azeroth. While the Pandaren people have learned to follow in the wisdom of their emperor and let go of their burdens, they also believe the rest of the world had been destroyed in the Sundering. But not all Pandaren are alike. Nestled in the idyllic valley of the Four Winds in a village named Stoneplough, there existed one who was filled with wanderlust. He yearned to explore beyond the mist, to know the entire world and not just his piece of it. It was in pursuit of this goal that he realized that the turtles would always leave and then return. Lulang traveled to the famous turtle beaches of the Karazhan wilds, where he met and befriended one of these turtles, naming him Shenzin Su. Many of his people looked on in confusion. They thought he was strange, perhaps a little damaged to believe anything could have survived the sundering beyond their borders. He gathered his supplies from a local merchant, a lantern to light the nights, food for the long journey, a compass and a spyglass for navigation, and an umbrella to resist the elements. He gathered them all and set off with his turtle for the unknown. Many believed him to have perished when he did not return, a dangerous warning to others who would attempt the same folly. But 5 years later, almost to the day, this myth was dispelled as he returned. The people were in disbelief as he recounted his tale of far-off lands to the others. At first, many would still not believe these outlandish tales, but once more, Lu gathered his supplies and set off for his long journey, and like clockwork, every 5 years he would return to recount his adventures. Each and every time he returned, his turtle Shenzinsu had grown larger and larger, large enough to support more than just one panda, and so asked if any would join him in his adventures. There was only one brave soul at first, a woman named Shinizi, who would eventually become his wife. But after she returned, more and more would follow each time, and the turtle had grown so large that an entire colony could be supported upon its back. It became common for Pandaren to stare out to sea, longing for the return of the Wandering Isle, to hear all of the new stories, ones of races they could not imagine, like trolls and tauren. As it is with all mortals, Lu Lang would pass to the beyond, but his legacy would live on through his children and his followers. The Wandering Isle had continued to grow, even after his death, and people still travel upon its back to discover the world, even today. Perhaps Lu was right when he told us that every horizon is a treasure chest, every blank map a story to be told. There is always something left to discover. I'm sorry for the delay in this upload, everyone. This one had to be remade from the beginning. But a huge thank you to everyone for being really understanding and supporting this every step of the way. You mean the most. And don't forget to come back anytime.